Russia condemns Ukrainian law that paves way to NATO. Russia's parliament took a historic step towards NATO on Tuesday, drawing swift condemnation from Russia. MPs in the government-controlled chamber overwhelmingly adopted a bill dropping Ukraine's non-aligned status, a classification given to states such as Switzerland that refuse to join military alliances and thus play no part in wars. Sergei Lavrov, Russia's foreign minister, said the decision was counterproductive and only heats up the confrontation, creating the illusion that accepting such laws is the road to regulating the deep internal crisis in Ukraine. Dmitry Medvedev, Russia's prime minister, said that Mr. Poroshenko's request to the Verkhovna Rada to jettison non-aligned status was effectively an application to join NATO, turning Ukraine into a potential military opponent of Russia. The decision would have extremely negative consequences, and Russia will have to react, said Medvedev, without saying how. So, it's New Year. Let's see if we have enough bad news that we wake up enough people to the fact that we are going to be fucked. Let's hope enough people do wake up so that we can enable some sort of change. Any kind of change. Anything but the road we're going down with the status quo. This article is a fucking nightmare. I first read it on Christmas Eve, but my wife wouldn't allow me to do a video on it because we were going out for lunch, and it would have meant we were being late. So instead, I just got really drunk at the lunch. This article is laying out the worst possible scenario in the Russian separatist war against Ukraine. Now let me decode this for the general public, because as we know, they're still full of Christmas cheer and coming down from their Strictly and X Factor highs, and they still in the back of their mind think that they're gonna sleep with Cheryl Cole. If Ukraine becomes part of NATO, then the Russian separatists will not only be attacking Ukraine, they will be attacking a member of NATO whose policy is that if one is attacked, then all are attacked. So NATO, which includes us, will be duty-bound and legally bound to attack the Russian separatists. Meaning, nuclear Russia, okay, did you hear that? Nuclear Russia will then retaliate on behalf of the separatists. And no doubt China will assist Russia, and we will have a World War III scenario. See why I wanted to do this just before Christmas? Just to help people's turkey get stuck in their fucking throats? Now, remember that it was America and the EU that caused the uprising in Ukraine, which resulted in the overthrowing of a democratically elected government and neo-Nazis being put into power. Well, there have been so-called elections in Ukraine since, but it was a case of, do you want the American puppet on the right or the American puppet on the left? I think you get my point. Ukraine becoming part of NATO is looking more and more likely, with the Ukrainian MPs voting to end their non-aligned status. A few months ago, it was inconceivable that Ukraine would be considered part of NATO, and now we're one step closer. It might take months, it might take years for Ukraine to be accepted into NATO, but we need to hope and pray that that never happens. This genuinely is scary stuff. Listen, we're not stupid. We know everything is coming to a head. Companies' debt-to-earning ratio is higher than 2007-8. The American Congress recently signed the American taxpayer to covering the bankers' derivative losses that could be in the quadrillions, much higher than 2007 and 8. Bankers have been committing suicide in increasing numbers around the world. The economies of the world are going to implode. We also have government links in the UK to a huge paedophile ring that have been murdering children, that's been massively covered up over the decades. So they need to distract us. And to do that, they want to start a large theatre war in Russia. To assist with this distraction, i.e. war with Russia, America, in its infinite wisdom, recently passed the second provocative anti-Russian legislation in a week, which, further polarizes relations with Russia, helping to cement a Russia-China alliance against Western hegemony, and undermines long-term American financial and physical security by handing the national treasury over to war profiteers. That's what they've done. They just want war, war, war for profits, profits, profits. And how was this bill passed? Was it debated for days on end and then voted upon? Was a national debate held to gauge the public opinion due to the consequences of such a bill? No. It was passed by 3 congressmen late at night when no one was looking, like the NDAA, and also the Federal Reserve Bill. This piece of legislation is the middle finger to Russia and a kick in the crutch to the people of Europe and America, as thousands, maybe millions, could die as a result of this one bill. But will we accept this reckless behaviour? The American and British establishments have gone insane, and they should start becoming worried. Very, very worried. You think I'm fear-mongering? Well, I'm not. Have a look at what the only decent few congressmen in America are saying about the Russian bill, if you don't believe me. We have insane politicians leading the West. They are raping children. They're saving bankers from their gambling debts. They're getting everybody else to pay them. They're funding and arming terrorist organisations whilst claiming to be against them. And they're now provoking Russia with sanctions. And if they manage to get Ukraine to become part of NATO, well then it's game over. Nuclear war. I know it's only just turned New Year, but I live in reality. And I'll be hugging my kids a little bit tighter this evening. Mad, mad people run our fucking planet. They simply must be stopped.